the Digital Legacy Thanatologist, who helps individuals, families, and companies navigate the emotional and logistical complexities of legacy readiness and digital preparedness. She works with both individual clients and organizations offering legacy planning as an employee benefit, guiding them through comprehensive end of life plans, including the digital assets traditional estate planning overlooks, so they can, in her words, live fully and die ready. Her approach reframes the subject most people avoid. She treats legacy planning not as a morbid task, but as an act of love and a source of peace of mind for those left behind. With a professional background spanning healthcare risk management, project management, and data governance, Niki brings a rare combination of compassion and systems expertise to the emerging field of death tech. What's up, my financially intentional people? We are in for a treat today because we have Niki Weiss joining us. And we're going to talk about what nobody wants to talk about, but everybody always inevitably has to deal with, right? And that's death and dying and leaving a legacy, right? So what are we going to pass on? What are we leaving behind? And how do we do that in an impactful way? So Niki, I'm super honored to have you.
Yes, Seema, I am so excited to be here. And let me just say, it's not just death and dying, it's death and dying in the digital age.
Yes.
That's the difference. In this tsunami of AI, some of us are just barely treading water.
Yeah.
That's what happens to our digital afterlife.
Yes. And you are a thanatologist.
Yes.
Yay. And let's talk about what that is, what that means, and how you've been able to help people with all of your credentials and information and wealth of knowledge.
Well, thank you so much. So thanatology might be a new word for people.
It was definitely for me.
That word of the day. Now you know, everybody. But let's break it down. Thanatology, Thanos, Thanatos. Thanatos was the Greek god of death. And Thanatos, as the Greek god of death, was a very benign character or god. Basically, just journeyed the humans to the other side. It wasn't malevolent or benevolent. It was just benign. For whatever reason, Marvel Comics decided to take Thanos and evilify it, vilify it. But yeah, so Thanatology. Think of psychology, sociology, anthropology. Now you have a thanatology, which is the study of death and dying. I am a digital thanatologist because I specialize in someone's digital afterlife.
That's really cool, especially because everything is digital, right? And that just like the way that legacy planning has been set up is really caught up to that. I like to show people my estate plan. It's like a book that's this thick that you have to flip through and all this kind of stuff. And it's great to have. And I love it as a resource. But yeah, I want to know digitally what I should have in place and what we should prepare for. But first, I want to know, how did you get into this field? How did you get here? We all know about the other ologies, but we don't know about the thanatologies.
It is a passion of mine. And for most people, their passion starts with a story. And the story usually starts with their childhood, their family. Mine certainly does. These are my parents behind me. Both my parents, they passed away before they were 50. 10 years apart, both of cancer. So for me growing up, it was just very much part of my childhood. For some people, they run away from that experience for whatever reason. In my DNA, I leaned into it. And the first part of my career, I actually worked as a hospice clinician, bedside, supporting families as they transition to this end stage of life. And have you personally had anyone go through a hospice experience?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I'm a labor and delivery nurse by trade. So I'm a nurse. It's part of the thing. We don't do hospice typically in labor and delivery, but we do on occasion in really tragic situations. But personally and through my training, I have gone through that. Yeah.
Yeah. And just as a side note, the hospice agency that I worked for, one of them, we actually had a pediatric hospice, palliative and hospice program. So yes, death, it's indiscriminate. It doesn't care how old you are, what your socioeconomic or even your health status is. It will come. It is the most humanistic thing we will all go through, yet for whatever reason, we run away from it. So for me, I leaned into it. I had that opportunity. Anyone who's had a hospice experience, you'll know that hospice workers, it's a calling, just something that we're meant to do. And I felt very blessed to have that opportunity until I was about 40. And then when I turned 40, I was like, I actually wanted to make some money. So I transitioned from hospice work into project management. And that's where I've been for the last 20 years, working mainly in healthcare as a project manager. It was about 3 years ago when my husband and I realized, oh, we had not updated our wills since our kids were in high school. And now they're in their 30s. We have grandchildren. So he and I started to update our wills. Now, granted, death is easy for me. It's an easy conversation. I'm a project manager, so dealing with the step-by-step administrative stuff is not overwhelming. But Nishima, I felt it. Wow, this is like a big deal. It was complicated. It's a second marriage. We have adult children. Who makes the decisions? How do you make distribution? It's not simple. And so I started to do some more research and realized, like, why is this such a taboo topic? We're all going to go through it. And if we're not personally going through it, we're going to go through it with our loved ones, right? Especially the sandwich generation. So I started doing some research and I'm like, what is it going to change the conversation? And then I realized it's our phone. It's the data that we have that is now going to change the conversation around death and dying in the digital age. So let me ask you this question. If you died tomorrow and your phone died with you, think about multi-factor authentication. How much mayhem would there be for your loved ones?
Probably a lot until they could get into my computer and get into my LastPass because I have a legacy plan on there.
But all your multi-factor authentication. So let me ask you, do you have your legacy contact set up on your iPhone?
I do.
So for those that don't know, iPhone has a feature called Legacy Contacts. Android has a different feature. You have to go into your Google and Active Account Manager and set that up. But for most people, let me pressure test you a little bit. Are you open to that?
Sure. I love it.
Okay. So who is in your legacy contacts?
Right now it's my dad. My dad. Yeah.
Just your dad?
I think my dad and my stepmom.
Okay. So how old are they?
Old. 70s.
So already I'm like, red flag. So, right now, what if your dad and your stepmom were in the car together? Then what happens?
And they usually are.
So you see where, as a thanatologist, I'm going to dare to ask questions. I'm going to start asking these pressure testing questions. Part of living is dying. We're all going to die. We'll die one of three ways. Either sudden, unexpected, we'll get a terminal diagnosis, or we'll need a long-term care plan. But either way, we need to understand how to do it. So the fact that you have your dad and your stepmom in your legacy contacts, but they're not very tech savvy and they're older and so many risks there, as your thanatologist, we would probably sit down and more like, we probably need to find somebody. So then the next question is, you have a will or trust, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your executors should be in your legacy contacts.
Yes.
Right?
I'm not sure that they are. I set it up and then but yeah, my executors, I meet with them regularly, but not about the digital stuff.
So this is the digital piece. Why? Because everything is now not just being digitized. We're in a kind of a chasm right now where we have those physical documents. So you said you had your, what I call a final playbook, right? You've got your playbook on what happens, when it happens, and who should take control and manage it. But what if there's a flood or a fire? So then we need to make sure that everything you have in that book is digitized and put into some sort of platform system. And so we have what I call a physical system, both a physical and a digital system, because floods and fires happen and cyber hacks happen. And we also need to be able to move information around so people can have access to it. So there's a level of what does it mean to die one of the three ways in this digital world. And it takes a fair amount of my background, project managing, right? It's like we need to reflect who are those people in our lives, the know, love, and trust people. We need to decide what their roles and responsibilities are going to be. We need to find a way to document it, communicate it, and then we're going to iterate it. So yeah, it's a lot, but at the same time, you know what happens when we don't do it.
Oh, yeah. All too often. Yeah.
And that's why we're here. So that's where I come up. I'm a digital thanatologist that will project manage your end of life as a wellness program. Now, that's probably the difference, what I do. Most thanatologists, they talk about grief. They're very much into the grief space, what happens after you die. For me, what makes me different is that I want to educate and empower people before life happens, before an event happens. Can we build out your final playbook, something that empowers you while life is good, while everyone is healthy enough to make decisions, to document what their true wishes are?
Differentiate for me, though, between what you do and what you would go to like an attorney for your will and in your trust.
We do the pre-planning as thanatologists or as working on your final playbook. We're going to have those uncomfortable conversations. I'm going to ask those risk management. I could have just said, hey, do you have your legacy contacts set up? And you're like, yeah, I got them set up, and continued on with the conversation. But no, I drilled in a little bit. I pressure tested. Are you sure the people that you have in your legacy contact are the right people? Because in my mind, part of my superpower is that I can see the different scenarios that could potentially happen that would cause chaos and confusion, right? So the fact that who are your go-to people? We work with estate attorneys, elder care attorneys, also with wealth managers, financial advisors, long-term care facilities, dementia. I mean, our list of shoulder partners is very long. And what we do is we get people prepared. We get their project ready to have those conversations. So when you do go to the lawyer who's going to draft your will and or trust, you're ready to go. You've already flushed them out. You've already gone through the emotional blockage of trying to figure out, okay, I've got 3 kids. Child number 1's my favorite one, but man, they're married to somebody I don't like or trust very much. Child number 2 is not very good with money. Child 3, I don't have a close relationship with, but they have an MBA and they're very good with money. So you've already flushed all of that out before going to the attorney, as an example. And sitting there when they say, who do you want as an executor? You're like, I don't know, but their clock is running at $400 an hour, right? So working with a final playbook, you're going in with an already well thought out, documented, these are my wishes. These are the people I've decided on. This is why I've decided on them, and you're ready to go.
Love it. I love it. Okay. So you brought up something very interesting that I think a lot of people overlook. And that's, you said you're on your second marriage. So you guys, I'm assuming, had kids separately. That opens up a whole can of worms because it's not clear who gets what, right? But again, another layer of an uncomfortable conversation that a lot of people just don't have. And even in the beneficiary space, a lot of people haven't even changed their beneficiaries from their exes.
Oh, don't get me started. How many HR professionals I speak to, and some of their biggest headaches is that they get the call from the current spouse that the employee died, right? And they're trying to access the benefits, and lo and behold, the employee forgot to take the ex-spouse. Forgot to swap the ex-spouse for the current spouse, and who gets the money? That's not uncommon.
It's going to be the ex.
Sorry. Or more importantly, they die in intestate, right? So for your listeners, if they're not familiar with that term, intestate, intestacy, new word of the day, it means that you die without a will. And if you don't know what intestate means, it just means that you're welcome to going through probate hell.
That part. The probate process, not only is it hell, like you've already lost someone, but the process is taxing. It's hella expensive.
The worst time to plan a funeral financially is when someone's already dead. That's like going to buy a car from a used car salesman when you have to get to work and you don't have a car. That's what the experience is like. There's this level of emotional desperation, and you're not of sound mind, and you're making very expensive decisions.
Yeah. So at the lowest level, that's like some of the most basic things. You don't need an attorney to do that. Just update your beneficiaries, please. Don't die intestate. Let's get a basic will in place. Come on.
Here's another one. Do your listeners know about payable on death and transfer on death? Are those terms that you've talked about on your podcast before?
No, not extensively. Let's talk about it.
So let's just keep it financial, right? Yeah. So another easy to do while you're alive and healthy and life is good and you're not pressured is there's two terms. Educate them. One is payable on death. They also call it POD, which means that you're going to go into your bank, talk to your bank representative and ask them, hey, can you check on my account that I have beneficiaries named as payable on death, POD. The banker, your representative, will be very impressed and happy that you did that. Most people don't. What that means is that payable on death means that if there is a death, that account will not have to go through probate. So who's ever named on that account, once they have a death certificate, which could be a week to 10 days, then they could just go in and say, here's the death certificate and go through the paperwork in order to get the money. If they don't have that term set up, payable on death, then they might have to wait till probate is done. Same thing on transfer on death. Same concept, called TOD, and those are more for like brokerage accounts. Again, call up your broker and make sure that all of your accounts have transfer on death confirmed, and the beneficiaries, make sure that you don't have any X's on there or people you're not talking to or people have passed away. Make sure they're updated, are on there as well. They'll be very impressed. Oh, can I say one more thing about bank accounts?
Yes.
My other pet peeve and red flag, please don't do. If you have a safe deposit box, do you know anyone who still has a safe deposit box?
I don't know. That's so old school.
Okay, you and I, it's old school. But what about our parents? Do your parents still have one?
No, I don't think so. Maybe my grandfather was probably the last person that had one.
If anybody has a safe deposit box, get rid of it. Get rid of it. You don't need it. Go to a big box store and go spend $60 and buy a fireproof, waterproof box and just buy it and put it in the back of your closet, right-hand drawer, and just put whatever you had in the safe deposits in there. So safe deposit boxes are liabilities now, and they're administratively very complicated to get access to after someone has died.
Okay.
I hear a lot of times where an 80 or 90-year-old still has a safe deposit box. They have their jewelry in there and the deed to the house and maybe some cash. And they have one of their children might be a co-signer on the safe deposit box. If that parent died because they're not married, because it's a child, they have to wait till everything goes through probate, and then there's additional steps that need to be taken, administrative documentation and proof. It's very complicated. And then because the survivor co-signer on that box is not necessarily a beneficiary, so then the assets in there will need to be looked at.
So safe deposit box, you can't just put a beneficiary on anything else. It's its own kind of beast.
Get rid of it. It's not even worth it.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know who does that anymore. Noted.
Yeah. Like I said, it was a thing and some people forget about it. And the 70-plus-year-olds, they still might have it.
I wonder what happened to all of the things that are in those forgotten safe deposit boxes from back in the day. Do banks just have auctions and just get rid of them?
They're called unclaimed assets.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Unclaimed assets. And it's not just safe deposit boxes. It's 401ks. It's life insurance policies. There is about $70 billion worth of unclaimed assets because people don't document where things are.
Yeah. Yeah. But doesn't every state have like an online search thing where you can look up if you have unclaimed assets?
There is. So for those that are savvy enough to do it, but if you are the decedent or if they're your assets, why would you want the government to take control of it? Why would you want the government to decide who gets it?
But that's what we do. Come on. This is what we do as a society. Then this is what I tell people even about marriage. When you get married, you have a prenup. One that either the state is going to decide or one that you're going to decide. And I'm going to want to decide every time. Why is it so taboo to talk about that? Y'all don't like the government up in your business?
Okay, so let's bring prenup, right? So marriage, there's a 50-50 chance that every marriage is going to end in divorce. There's a 100% chance that you are going to die.
100.
100%. All right. Unless you're biohacking, and that's a whole nother
You're still gonna
conversation at some point. But the conversation is still real. You have a life well lived. You've worked hard to gain assets. So why wouldn't you put a plan in place for offboarding and making sure that who gets what? If you want the government to get it, then you can use that old term, oh, dead is dead, what do I care? They'll figure it out. Okay, that's your choice. But if that's not your choice, then to be proactive, to understand that, take the taboo out of death and dying, we're all going to die, and de-emotionalize it and just put a plan in place. Let's just talk about it. Why? You want to go down the rabbit hole a little bit?
Let's do it.
AI. Let's talk about our digital afterlife. We have this body of ours, right? So a meat sack that has an expiration date. At some point, this body of ours is going to expire. But our digital afterlife, because of AI, if we don't care for it, if we don't have a plan for it, if we don't shut it down, if we don't make sure there's guardrails on it, do you want your digital life to live on forever?
Not if I don't have control over it, because who knows what they're going to use it for. I don't want to be perpetual porn, you know?
You're the first person to say that.
I'm just saying.
The other comments I get a lot, one is dead, I don't care, they'll figure it out. The other one is when I talk about digital afterlife, they're like, any of your Meta accounts or any of your social media accounts, recurring subscriptions, any of your digital assets. People are like, I don't care about that. Really?
One, you have to think about how it's going to affect the people that you're leaving behind. Two is that, again, you will lose control over your likeness. And as somebody that is a creator and creates things for brands, your likeness is worth more than gold, right? You want to protect that with everything. And so that's part of my negotiations every day. No, you cannot use my likeness in perpetuity. We're not doing that. You get 3 months and that's it. Or you're going to have to pay me a whole lot of money.
Those are where those laws are. This is when it's starting to get complicated.
Yeah.
Right? It really is starting to get complicated. The only way you're going to break through this is to have a plan. And the only way you're going to be able to build a plan is accept the fact that this is part of living and that you should have a solid, what is your offboarding plan going to look like? Your legal, financial, physical, and digital aspects of the life that you've built today based on 3 scenarios. You die tomorrow unexpectedly, terminal diagnosis, what does that look like, and your long-term care plan.
Let's talk about advance directives, because that is something that I talk a lot about because I'm in labor and delivery. Every time people come to get admitted, we have to ask them every time, do you have an advance directive? Over the 17 years that I've been a nurse, probably about 5 people have had advance directives. One was a estate planning attorney. One was me, and the other 3 were Jehovah's Witnesses because they have the little thing in their wallet because they don't get blood. So they have a plan in case of emergencies, what they would do. But let's talk about the importance of stuff like that as just one component.
When we talk about estate planning, there's 3.5 main documents that your estate attorney will draft for you. One is a will and or trust. Okay, so when you're dead, how are your assets going to be distributed, right? And then there's 2 additional documents that are drafted. One is called financial power of attorney, which we can talk about in a minute. And then there's also durable power of attorney for healthcare or healthcare proxy or medical advance directive. Sometimes people call it a living will. Hopefully I didn't confuse people. So power of attorney and that healthcare advance directive. Who is going to make the decisions? You're alive, but you're not capable of making those decisions yourself. A living will, healthcare proxy, medical advance directive, it's all the same thing, the verbiage in this legal document. You can get one signed. You can get one downloaded for free. Make sure you go to your state specific and look for medical advance directives, state specific.
And the hospitals usually have something too you can use.
Hospitals are going to have a very generic CYA cover themselves. But let me grab. Have you ever heard of the 5 wishes?
No.
Okay, so 5 wishes, highly recommend it. I don't know if it's being shown backwards.
Yeah.
So 5wishes.org. The 5 wishes, this is a document that I highly recommend. It's 12 pages and it goes literally step by step of what you want your wishes to be, as intimate as possible, and it's legal in 42 states. If you get it notarized, it can act as your advance directive. Compared to the hospital has the 1-pager. So this is 12 pages. Like, what do you want? Do you want a natural death? What do you think of palliative care and hospice? Do you live in a state that offers medical aid in dying? That's a whole ball of wax conversation. But to be able to have your 5 wishes signed, notarized, and then be able to share that with people, because you just don't know. Having gone through COVID, we just don't know what some people's wishes were.
Yeah. Most people don't know, just in general. And even, I don't know, I've had to have these hard conversations with people who are relatively healthy when they come into the hospital, and they may or may not come out because of complications. And people just don't know. And people come up to me and just like, well, my husband is going to make this decision for me. Believe me, that probably is not the best person.
No. Do you remember Terry Schiavo?
Yes, and that's the case I bring up every time.
So we should bring it up again, because some people might not know about this situation.
Yeah, let's talk about it, because that was a long time ago. I'm a little bit older than I look, so my audience skews a little bit younger.
30 years ago,
Yeah.
30 years ago, Terry Schiavo, I think she was 26 when she had a brain aneurysm. She was just newly married. So she had a husband, but she's 26 and her parents were super involved. She was left in a vegetative state, and for 15 years.
What state was that in? I can't remember.
We'll have to look it up. So her parents wanted to keep her around. Her husband wanted to take her off life support. And then the court battles went on for too many years.
Florida. Mm-hmm. Of course, it's Florida.
So the idea, though, is who's going to make those decisions, right? As the parent, like, this is my baby. You can't let my baby go. And this is my wife. She and I have had pillow talk conversation. I know what her wishes were. So why put your family in that situation?
Yeah, that's exactly what I tell people, because they're just like, yeah, why wouldn't it be my husband? I don't know how competent your husband is in making these decisions. What if your mom comes up here and is just like, no, this is my baby. I take care of her. We already have this in place. I give that exact example and they're like, oh, this is why you need it. So, yeah.
Also, as a thanatologist, when I'm talking to people about advance directives, and it's really hard to, who's going to be your people that is going to take care of you. And as a thanatologist, I don't always recommend that it be the child, even if it's an adult child. I think having a child make that decision for a parent is very complicated on many levels. And if you are going to choose an adult child to make that decision, it really needs to be a sit-down conversation. These are my wishes. If the 60-year-old mother just got diagnosed with a terminal cancer and she has to sit down with her 38-year-old child of mine, this is what I want, and write it down. Use the 5 wishes to be very clear on what your wishes are, because we bring it back to the financial piece. Statistically, it is the eldest daughter that ends up being the caregiver. And caregiving is not always just the physical caregiving.
Listen, I'm a nurse and I don't want it. And I'm the oldest daughter. I don't want it. I can't do it. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not.
You have that conversation with parents? Do they know that?
The whole thing is, yeah. And I swear, my daddy would be like, oh, she'll take care of me. No problem. I don't want it. I will pay for somebody to take care of you.
Okay, so the decision is, it's not me. You're going to pay someone $40, $50 an hour for how many hours per day, for how many weeks, months, years. Are you paying someone either in home or in a facility? Got to work this stuff out before you're in the middle of it.
Yeah, And I feel like people think that conversation is separate. That long-term care conversation is also part of this conversation. It needs to be wrapped in. So it sounds like you encompass all of this stuff in what you do. Can you walk us through, like, sitting down with you, what that looks like, how long it typically takes, and then what people can expect to walk away with?
So working with me as a thanatologist, we're going to sit down and look at what we call a peace of mind assessment. We will go through your assessment. It is a 40 question conversation of what do you have, what don't you have, how do you feel about death? And just like a project manager, I am gathering the project requirements, identifying who your stakeholders are, what your risks are, costs involved, schedules, right? So are you someone who just got a recent diagnosis, or you need a long-term care plan, or maybe you're just doing this very proactively way ahead of time? And then once we do that, it takes anywhere between, I tell people it depends, but anywhere between 20 to 40 hours over a period of time, 6 to 12 months, for someone to really start putting together their playbook.
Yeah.
A lot of this is done with you, not for you, but we give you the roadmap to look at your legal, financial, physical, digital, so then you can have a final playbook, when peace of mind for those you leave behind. And then the idea is that we're not just working one-on-one, but we're bringing this final playbook concept into companies and corporations as a wellness program.
Yeah.
Right? So we're taking the concept, we call it legacy readiness and digital resilience.
Love it.
Legacy readiness and digital resilience. Why? Because end-of-life planning people don't want to talk about.
When you do it at an institutional level, are you doing it in one-on-one? Are you doing it in groups, or how does it work?
No, we are definitely doing it in groups.
Okay.
We offer just a weight management program. Handing someone, hey, I need to lose 50 pounds, handing them a diet and exercise program usually doesn't do it. There's a behavior modification here, right? So you're taking
just like finances.
It is. It's like the personal finance. Like, just balance your checkbook. Okay, but there's that emotional piece that stops us from doing the behavior. So we go into companies and corporations, offer it as a wellness program. Why? Because when you have an employee that's dealing with death, dying, or incapacitation, it impacts the employer. Absenteeism, turnover, mental health issues. And the employer is already offering short and long-term disability, life insurance, some legal services. But because it's still complicated, people don't know what the step-by-step process is. So what we're doing is going in and step one, who are your know, love, and trust people? Who are the people in your life that if life happened would be able, both mentally and emotionally incapacitated, to be able to shut your life down? We identify them. We identify all of the documents that are needed. Here's a document people don't think about. What about your 18-year-old that you're about to send off to college? They signed a HIPAA release form. Most parents don't think about that. And yet your kid goes off to college and they have that hold my beer moment. Something happens. They end up in a hospital. You as the parent, you don't have access to their medical records if you don't have that HIPAA release form. That's one of those.
Yeah. And at 12 now, you lose some of that privilege to their medical records too.
We can talk medical, legacy contacts on a, so here, again, this is what we do during our final playbook sessions, right? Is we just start looking at what you currently have and how we can start fixing those risks. So if life happens, you're good to go. Here's a heartbreaking story. Trigger warning. Remember I was talking about the legacy contacts?
Yes.
In your iPhone? So I can't emphasize enough to the listeners, please, if you have an iPhone, look up what you're going to, I'll just walk people through it. You're going to go into your settings, top left-hand corner, you're going to hit your name or face. It'll take you to a screen and it'll say sign in security. Click on sign in security. And then from sign in security, you scroll down and hit legacy contacts. If you have a child, if you have aging parents, you should be in their legacy contact. Mm-hmm. You have 1 to 5 people you can put in your legacy contact. The story, heartbreaking story I tell is I had a client who had a 16-year-old child who unalived himself. Mm. Now, 16, underage, and parents own the phone. But the child did not set up his legacy contacts. Child unalives himself. The parents had to go to court to get a court order to get access to the phone to see what texts he was sending before he took his own life. The phone company has more control over your data than the government right now.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to think about. So working with a thanatologist, working to build your final playbook, it just allows you to go, okay, let me breathe for a moment, one step at a time. What do we do first? What do we do next? What do we do based on this scenario? Who's in my life? And just like a project, we just start moving through it to make sure that all your ducks are in order.
So once you have your playbook in place, how often do you recommend updating it?
So I always, and when we say playbook, right, probably the biggest pain point in doing the playbook is your password management, right? So your password management is part of your final playbook. My recommendation for password management is once a quarter. Like, you should be going through your passwords and updating and checking in and making sure that you have some sort of password system, both a physical, like handwritten or some sort of hard copy document that has all your passwords, and then also some sort of password management like a 1Pass. Password management should be done multiple times per year, 1 to 4 times per year. I always recommend just checking your documents when you're doing your taxes. Like, you're already doing your taxes, so that just adding, oh, I should check on all my beneficiaries and make sure everything is looking good and while I'm doing my taxes. So that's like a good sanitation, like administrative cleanup list. Certainly if there is a life event, death, divorce, dissolution, right? Or joyous occasions, new baby, new family member, right? A marriage. So when a life event happens, so I would say that those 3 are like those, what we call milestones on when you should be updating and iterating your playbook. Another piece that I really want to emphasize, just for coming up time here, is if you're over 70 years old, and I don't know where your audience is landing, if you're over 70 years old, you should have already prepaid for your funeral arrangements.
Yep.
It's the next level of adulting.
I was talking to my dad about that because my dad's Muslim and I don't practice, and there are certain things that he's going to want for his burial. And so I was just like, I don't know what you want. I don't know any of these traditions and all these things, and I want to honor your wishes. But you haven't even told me.
Have him pay for it.
Yeah, so no, he did. I set it up. So he went to the cemetery that he wanted to be, like, it's a Muslim cemetery. They have a ceremony and all that stuff is in place. But it all stemmed from that conversation with my grandfather, because he's the one falling out with everybody. And I'm just like, so you can upset with your siblings. You know, you putting me in the same position.
So you had that hard conversation. How'd that go?
Their parents, they don't want to listen to you. But he got his estate plan together. He got his funeral stuff together. Now, the only part is communicating with everyone so that everybody knows what the plan is. And I think that's a big part that people leave out. Like, this whole time I've been thinking, I'm going to sit down and do a recording that goes through everything, that talks about what my wishes are, and just set a reminder to update that recording and send it out. So you have this recording in my voice outside of just this book that I have and all the digital stuff. Like, you'll have all that. But listen, this is what I want for my kids. This is what I want to happen with these accounts. This is how I want to distribute it. Even though I have it all in the trust and everything in this outline, I think people need to understand what the intentions are. And you need to be very clear about the intentions, and that forces you to do that.
You're part of that sandwich generation. Right? So you have young parents and you have aging parents. You have young kids and aging parents. And it's amazing. People are like, how do I have these conversations with my parents? As a thanatologist, I say, you should start on your plan first, and then say, hey, mom and dad, I'm doing this plan. What's your plan? And then realize that the roles are being reversed. There's going to come a point where you become the parent and they start becoming more of the, I don't want to use the word child, but the roles do get reversed.
Yes. Yeah.
So you have to start talking to them like a 21-year-old or an 18-year-old or a 16-year-old or a 14-year-old. Like, it's going to be that level of like digression and willingness to say, oh, don't you worry about that. I like your dad. Don't worry about it. I got it covered. No, show me.
Yeah. I need to know specifically exactly where. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I mean, you've talked to enough people. Why do you think it's so hard and taboo to have these meaningful conversations with family members?
Nobody wants to talk about death.
Why?
It's just this fear. It's just like a taboo. I don't understand it. I don't know. I talk about hard things all the time. And so it's never been like one of the things that I'm like afraid to talk about. But just so many people, it's just like those things that people just put off because they think they have more time. Right? I can talk about this later, but we don't know when we're going to go, but we know it's 100% guaranteed. So yes, I think that's the age old question, and I don't think we'll ever get an answer, but what we can do is give people the little, I call them the little small P things they can do every day to be working on this and be looking at it instead of thinking that it's like this big thing that they have to tackle. And maybe it'll be a little bit more digestible. But like you have shared so many gems and so many, if you just do these things, you'll be ahead of 99% of your peers, right? Mm-hmm. And so I really appreciate you. And I just want you to let people know how they can work with you, get in contact with you.
Easy. So finding me on LinkedIn is super easy. I'm easy to find. We're on all social medias. I don't think there's many digital thanatologists out there. Certainly finalplaybook.com. Mm-hmm. Also, if you have a company or corporation, you want to bring this opportunity as a wellness program into your benefits package, we have endevo.life. That's ENDEVO.life, where we support companies and organizations to build legacy readiness and digital resilience as a wellness program.
I love that. I love
Live
that.
Live fully, die ready. That's our tagline. Live fully, die ready.
I feel like it's a great employee benefit because I know they have to deal with it so much in the back end, like when their employees pass away.
Or their employees' loved ones pass away.
It gets a lot of stuff in the background that it can save them a lot of time. So it seems like a very good investment. But anyway, Niki, thank you. Thank you so much. I've learned so much. I've been reminded of some things that I have to do myself. It's just like anything with your finances or anything with your health and wealth. It's not just that one-time check-in that you have to do. It's something that you have to set a reminder, work on these things. Every time it gets easier, but it's something that we cannot put off. Again, we are 100% guaranteed to die, right? Why not die the way that we want to instead of having someone else decide or try to figure it out, especially in a time when they're mourning. And so super important information. Thank you so much again, Niki.
Thank you.